From the swamp to the stars. Time for little Timmy Seanor and the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
And that's why we love Tim Seanor around here, as he brings us the latest in the UFO news that is happening around the world. Man, has it been busy lately, Tim. Wow.
Yeah, it has, absolutely. It's been crazy. This weekend was nuts. You and I have been talking constantly about what's been going on in this country and yours, and it's just been phenomenal. It is absolutely never been seen before in our history, as our country is going through a very tumultuous time right now. And then, we've got this amazing news to follow. So let's briefly talk about it, because I know it's been your show all night tonight and you've been covering it. But boy, balloons, again, we can't stop talking about balloons and objects, and how the United States is handling it and Canada is handling it, and in fact now the whole wide world.
Well, first of all, before we even get started, I'm going to know what's that prune juice you've been drinking?
It's actually blueberry. It's one of those mixes I just do. It's a berry one tonight, so purple.
No BS News is saying news will be crazy tomorrow. So I guess at least today. Let's just dip into this quickly here.
Mm-hmm.
At least today, we are seeing reports of people actually smartening up and saying, look, there's no aliens here. We don't have aliens. Okay. This is not little extraterrestrials coming from the sky and freaking out North America with an invasion of some sort. We're starting to get more level-headed about this, Tim, and I think that's a good sign.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Definitely one of the stories that I wanted to cover was how the White House handled this topic, and the fact that it relayed very clearly on no uncertain terms that this was not aliens. I think they even went as far as to repeat it 3 times during their press briefing.
Yeah, and I also want to take the press secretary for the United States. I want to thank her for calling Canada on the press, one of her interviews, because it's not that we're that close together, but apparently Canada is hard to say.
The lady in red dropped the ball on that one. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Canada. We live in Canada.
I think it's a cool name. We should, hopefully it sticks. Maybe it'll stick. I think it's cool.
No. Let's not say we did. By the way, Dave's pet peeve for all of our American friends, and I love you guys. You will never hear me say Seattle, America, or Los Angeles, America, or New York, America. Please stop saying Toronto, Canada, Vancouver, Canada, Winnipeg, Canada. We're not that far apart. We only have 10 provinces, 10, not 50 states. And if most Canadians can respect the fact that down south, it's Peoria, Illinois, not Peoria, America. Okay. Or
remember, there is a Vancouver here, though, so we do have to specify. I mean, I think specificity is so important.
Vancouver, BC is a lot more easy to say than Vancouver, Canada.
I see your point.
Vancouver, Washington. Oh, just honestly, it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't know why it grates my nerves so badly, but it does. All right, let's get right to it, my friend. China claims now they have unidentified objects in their airspace and are preparing to shoot them down. What's going on here? A little tit for tat there, Timmy?
I like that tongue twister. Yeah, the downing of Chinese spy balloon off of South Carolina coast has raised tensions between Beijing and Washington, quite obviously. And so Chinese authorities have reportedly spotted an unidentified flying object over the waters near a major naval base, and were preparing to shoot it down, according to officials. So, maritime authorities in China's eastern Shandong province said they had spotted an UFO in the waters near the coastal city of Rizhao, the state run Global Times reported on Sunday. And so other outlets reported that the object was spotted near Qingdao, which is home to the naval base and a major naval base for the People's Liberation Army. So a Marine Development Authority official told the paper that another Chinese news outlet that relevant authorities were preparing to shoot the object down. And so the reporting cited comes days just after American fighters shot down the United States in the United States, rather, shot down an unidentified object over Canada and off the Alaskan coast. A week before, the US military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon about the size of 3 school buses off the south coast of South Carolina after it had traversed the continental United States. And so the Biden administration said that the airship was used for surveillance. And now China claims it was on a meteorological research mission. And so we are seeing Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer telling the ABC this week on Sunday that the U.S. believes that the unidentified objects shot down were balloons, though smaller than the one down over the Atlantic Ocean on February 4th. So we're seeing a little bit of pushback from China here, claiming that they too now have potentially an object over their South China Sea, and virtually all of which China claims as its own and strongly objects to military activity by other nations in these contested waters. So it sounds like there is potentially something floating above those waters in China, and it draws some concern. And so maybe we're starting to see a little hint of this coming from Beijing during, furious protests coming because of how the United States handled the Chinese balloon here in the U.S.
Well, you know what I find interesting is you mentioned the spokesperson out of Washington claiming that these latest 3 were balloons, yet Canadian Department of Defense Defense Minister Anita Anand was specific to say there was no balloon shot down in Alaska, or pardon me, in the Yukon. No balloon whatsoever. It was not a balloon. So it's very intriguing to see the game of words that is being played, and we should expect this. I'm sure there is some trawler out in the bay near Taiwan that maybe has American license plates on it, maybe flying the old Stars and Stripes, that has a couple of balloons on there that may have launched them in the middle of the night into the jet stream and see where they go over China. This is all posturing, I believe.
I absolutely agree with you. And at the same rate, we know that the United States does the same kind of watching of other countries using the same exact deployments. So, this is just a little bit of pushback. Why is it suddenly in the media now? Is it a distraction over bigger and other, more important things? We'll just never know until this is all blown over, if you will. And I'm sorry to use that balloon pun there, but it is one of those things that we're going to have to kind of wait and see, that we'll know once it's all over. Are we going to see more of this? Yes, I do absolutely think so. In fact, we're starting to see pop-ups of this kind of all over the world. And so this new attention has drawn concern as to how the United States reacted. Other countries are now considering having to take on the same tactical maneuver to deal with these balloons or UAP or drones or whatever we're seeing. Because consider that even this most recent takedown of the octagonal object seemed to have strings that were attached to it, kind of implying that it may at one point have had a payload, that perhaps it had dropped somewhere along the way. maybe once it was recognized, or perhaps it's something else, but still definitely of interest. And we're going to see a lot more of them, I think.
I think we're going to see a lot more of them too. I don't see this being anywhere close to being done for the next little bit, but you know what? It makes it entertaining. It makes it a lot of fun. And, I'm curious to see how many more countries now, whether they're allies or not, are going to be reporting these balloons. We're hearing them down in South America. We're starting to hear about them in Europe. And it's just interesting. Just interesting to see how these balloons are just popping off everywhere now.
It is. And in a brand new article just released this evening from Wall Street Journal, the topic of the moment is obviously these mystery objects. And now they're considering that a brand new task force has actually just been set up to handle this. And so in the wake of dealing with Arrow, now we have even another task force that's going to partner up using the same criteria as our current UAP task force looking into this. And so amid a baffling series of incidents in which the U.S. has shot down 3 unidentified flying objects, the White House said Monday that it would create a team expected to study airborne objects and the potential security and safety risks that they pose. And I think that that's important. And it could be specifically for this sort of thing, but they're working hand in glove with Arrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to get a 7th military branch now, the United States Balloon Force. That's what we are going to see, the United States Balloon Force. And look, we are not going to get videos of this. Okay. Alaska and the Yukon are just way too remote for any videos or anybody from the public to get them. The cool part about the Lake Huron shoot down or the one in South Carolina, the citizens were watching for this. They were waiting for this. They were prepared. It was an air show.
That's right.
And, people will say, well, how come the people in the Yukon didn't get it? Well, we explained earlier, there's 43,000 people in a territory the size of Texas. And all of them, 25,000 of them live in the main hub of Whitehorse. Chances of that getting on video, slim to none. Alaska, exact same way. Once you leave the coastline and get into the mountains, the population is more, you got a better chance of seeing a grizzly bear hunt down a caribou than you do of actually seeing a human being out there.
And my understanding was they scrambled F-16s to take down the object over Lake Huron. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And my also understanding is that they missed with the first shot because they came back with 2 fired missiles. And did you hear that the first shot missed and it took 2?
That I did not.
Yeah. Kind of interesting. I did hear, that they did release through the war zone the tapes from the recordings from the pilots that took down this object. And in their very words, it was a very small object about the size of a 4-wheeler, I think was one of the quotes, and that it was going to be harder than expected to take it down simply because of the size. So perhaps it's not a surprise that it took 2 to take it down. I'm not savvy enough to know the details on how hard that could be, but it is interesting to consider the size and that was part of the narration that was given to the public through the war zone.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As we got about 90 seconds to go here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour, I think it's going to be interesting to see if these are now done for a while, that they may all of a sudden go dark again where we're not going to know what's going to happen. Because like Random Guy and Walter Bosley have said, this stuff's been happening for decades. Okay, these balloons have been coming over here for decades. We just started spotting them. And it's taken a while, but that's where we are. So the question is, do they now that there's a big media hype over this, at some point they will have to, probably in the weeks ahead, have to say, okay, they're all gone now, people. Don't bother looking at the sky. We took care of them. Big Brother got them all. Let's hug in victory once again. Even though they know there's probably more out there.
Why
and
now?
they'll go back to UFOs.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tim?
I'm why now guy. Why now? It just seems like maybe another distraction. Everyone I know says distraction, distraction, distraction. It makes sense. Why now? Are they suddenly drawing attention to these mysterious balloons that have been there for years?
Exactly. And that is something that we need to know. Is it part of a UFO front? Is it the start of Blue Beam? I doubt it. But you never know. Or is it just to break tension, considering there's a lot of tension between the West and the East? And we need to see that start to go away. When we return on Spaced Out Radio, a UFO Medical Coalition is seeking medical professionals to help with experiencers. We'll talk about this and more on Spaced Out Radio with Tim Seanor next. Sweet Tony D, Random Guy, will be joining us after the radio side, which reminds me I need to send Random Guy the invite. Random Guy. See, there was another mass shooting tonight at Michigan State. My God.
Yeah.
Ryan G, Guy Calgary, or Guy Calgary, how are you? Let's see here.
Shout out to Sky News.
I never saw it. Apparently, Sky News gave us a shout out last night. And they're based out of Europe. I don't know whether it was a verbal on video or if it was on print. Never saw it, but we had a few people hop into last night's chat room on After Hours, say, hey, they were told that they heard us on Sky News and they wanted to Dave, saw you on at my mom's TV house. Have a good night. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently it was some live feed on Sky News. That's all I know.
They love you in Europe.
No. We love the Commonwealth, man.
There you go. Hey, do you know what the Dust channel is? Dust?
No, I've never heard of it.
It's a sci-fi channel. No. Well, if your audience wants to, it's a free channel for sci-fi, and it's pretty much like UFO shows back to back all day long. But I was watching it, and all of a sudden my face popped up, and sure enough, the Canadian show Encounter UFO is playing on there. So anyone that wants to watch that series, they can see my family's account on Encounter UFO. And for that matter, Sev Talk is also on there. She's also on that show with me. So catch it if you can on the channel Dust.
Timmy's Dust right now. Eric Markham says, I love dust. Eric also likes glitter on his forehead. Wait till you see Markham in Vegas. He'll have like glitter all over his forehead and on his ears and everything. Something about sprinkling glitter. He just loves it.
I'm highly sus as how that happens. There's only two ways that can happen: self-application and non-self-application. I won't get into detail. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when are you going to be in San Francisco, Dave?
I'm going to be in San Francisco March 9th or 17th through 19th at UFO MegaCon 2023. Go to UFOMegaCon2023.com. Science Bob is going to be there. Melinda Leslie, Sev Talk, myself, and many more will be there hanging on out. I'm coming down from Canada to talk some UFOs.
Canada. I love that. I love that.
Pisses me
I'm
off.
sorry. I
It
know.
pisses me off.
I will never say it, but it's funny when you do.
Well, of course, I'm doing it for humor, but it really pisses me off. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like me making fun of the American accents, the 72 different dialects you have in your country.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand some Southern draws. That's for absolutely sure.
Try understanding a Newfoundlander speak.
Right. Or New Orleans. If you go to New Orleans, forget about it. You're not going to understand anything. Plus, I think they speak French there as well, which doesn't help.
Canada.
French Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Oh, hold on a second. Wham Bam Ham. That's a very, very interesting question you just asked. I want you to bring that up to me after the show, okay? I'm going to tag it. I've got something for you on that. 10 seconds here. We're at a third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We bring in once again Tim Seanor from our UFO report. Tim is with us a few times a week to break everything down. That's the UFO news. And we're going to get into a company looking for doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, anybody in the medical field to help UFO experiencers. What's this about?
Yeah, great news coming in today. In recent years, reports of unidentified flying objects, commonly referred to as UAPs, sorry, Dave, have captured the attention of the public and experts alike. And as the phenomenon continues to attract widespread attention, a growing number of witnesses have come forward to report experiencing physical and psychological effects after encountering UAPs. These effects range from headaches and nausea to anxiety and sleep disturbance. And so Ted Rowe, the co-founder and executive director of the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomenon, or NARCAP, said his own experiences with UFO and the aftermath of these encounters led him to create the UAP Medical Coalition, or UAP MC. And in a quote here, he says, "I've got a family history of these exposures to UAP that goes back to when I was 5 years old. And actually, there's one or two before that my family talks about. So I've been dealing with this subject all my life. My therapist was out to lunch in terms of UFOs in general, but she was good with trauma," Rowe said. And so UAPMC was formed to assist medical and mental health professionals seeking to collaborate on the topic of UAP. After Rowe noticed the difficulties people having these experiences were facing when reaching out for medical and psychological help. In a quote, he says, I started noticing people in the groups, and they were all having trouble too. I tried to join some experiencer groups. Oh no, there's a lot of sickness in there. But that's where people go because they're desperate. It's in their psychology and whether they have the discipline to hold to the reality of what they went through. So I'm worried about them. And I realized that the mental health and medical community was not at all prepared to deal with this. And so we're getting some new information here. And even Gary Nolan, a professor of microbiology and immunology at Stanford University School of Medicine, recently conducted a study exploring the potential health and effects of UAP encounters on the human brain. This study is notable because it represents one of the first attempts to systematically examine the possible biological effects of UAP interactions on humans. And so this is going to be one of the key findings of the study that Nolan has done was that individuals who reported UAP encounters showed evidence of increased activity in certain regions of the brain, specifically in areas involved in the regulation of stress and the processing of traumatic memories. So the researchers also found changes in the levels of certain neurotransmitters and other biochemicals, which could indicate changes in brain function. So UAP Med is made up of a team of volunteers from different fields of expertise. And the group includes therapists, professors, veterans, experiences, and researchers. So specifically, we have Ron Westrom, a professor at Eastern Michigan University and sociologist, specializing, there was a misspelling there, specializing in sociology of science and technology, said of the group. And he's saying here, it's amazing to meet all the people and to see that this is a wonderful experience and more people need to have it. So this is bringing a lot of relief to a lot of people, and it's bringing some reality of the psychology and the medical aspects of interaction with UAP. And it's coming from an amazing person who's done a lot of good, including the creation of NARCAP in this community, which is a massive database that is provided to everyone based on, I believe, military and aviation professionals. So they are typically expert witnesses, and it's a massive database. So congratulations to Ted Rowe on this new formation. And Dave, I know you're probably excited. Let's talk a little bit more about this new creation.
Well, I think it's a great idea if they're going to go at this as being legit. Okay, that's what I want to see as an experiencer myself. The legitimacy of it is something that I'm very curious of. All right, like what kind of patients are they taking? Because one of the talks that you and I have had over the last few months is what is an experiencer? Like somebody who sees dots in the sky one time. To me, that's not an experiencer. And I've heard radio show hosts and other people call it, well, I'm an experiencer too, because I saw dots one night. And they disappeared after about 3 seconds. Right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who have had real health and mental issues with their contact. And we're not talking crazy people here. We're talking good, downright, hardworking individuals, male, female, doesn't matter, okay, who happen to have an experience of a lifetime that they cannot understand. It keeps them up at night. I remember the first time I started seeing some UFOs up close and personal. Dude, I didn't sleep for days. It literally was like that moment in Close Encounters of the Third Kind where you see Richard Dreyfuss building the Devil's Tower out of everything, whether it's clay or mashed potatoes or crayons or dirt out of his yard. When I started seeing that, when I saw that black triangle over my house, I didn't sleep for days And the more and more I researched it, the more and more I got frustrated because every black triangle I saw online was nothing like the one I saw. And that was maddening to me. Maddening. Okay. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people like this in North America, maybe tens of thousands, who just want to know what has happened to them and why maybe it continues to happen if it includes ET contact and or abduction. So my only goal for this, and I really hope, is that this didn't turn into a place where experiencers become guinea pigs, and especially guinea pigs for government agencies who are trying to figure out what is going on. If this is independent, if this is about true health, about caring for people who've had the most extraordinary experience of their life, I'm all for it. Okay, but the minute I see a government agency on there, that's where I would recommend do not go. Do your homework beforehand. Don't just race for a conclusion here. All right, I know there's a lot of experiencers out there, man, who just want to race to a conclusion. I'm one of them. But at certain times, you need to take a step back and just do a little bit of homework. Not much, just a little bit of homework, because you really don't want to become a guinea pig over something like this.
You're absolutely right. I think my personal knowledge of Ted Rowe and how he operates is that this will absolutely become a legitimate program. And knowing that he has that kind of means and has had such success with NARCAP, I expect absolutely to see the same sort of thing for UAP MD, I believe it is. Let me just recap that. And so what I am interested, UAP MC. And so what I am interested to maybe dive deeper into is the fact that obviously there are different levels of experience. And even perhaps somebody that has seen dots in the sky was convinced that they were seeing something otherworldly. And so it may have been a paradigm shift for them. It may have shattered their mental boundaries of what they were willing to accept, right? And so this is the sort of foundation that needs to be for anyone, right? For someone that has met ET up close and personal, and for also somebody that is just for the first time seeing something and having their eyes opened, but still may need a group to talk to. You know, I think this is the sort of thing that Ted Rowe is looking for here. Some kind of support and group on a very much larger level than just your hometown group session. And so by my understanding of what he's putting together here, it's also a database for people to refer to. And so if you are having an experience of some sort, you can refer to a database to see if other people are having the same sort of experience, which I could definitely see as potentially being valuable for an experiencer to not feel so isolated, you know, whether it's dots in the skies, Dave, or something where it's a repeated close up and personal contact.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. But like I said, when it comes down to the study, let us just hope right off the bat that it isn't about just being a guinea pig. I hate to sound like a broken record again.
Yeah.
Because you're always making me sound like a broken record. But, I mean, you don't need to do that study. And there are plenty of universities out there doing these studies now.
Yeah, Gary Nolan, for example.
Rice University, another one.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So, yeah. All right, let's get to the final topic here. And where are we going here now, Timmy?
Well,
let's take a look here. Let's head to the White House, where they want you to believe those UFOs weren't aliens.
Yes, indeed. Unfortunately for the dedicated alien conspiracy theorists among us, the time is apparently not yet nigh. So don't don your tinfoil hats and throw them out the window necessarily, because the Biden administration has declared that the recent instances of unidentified aerial objects being shot down over the US and Canadian territory are not related to extraterrestrial life. In a quote, "I know there have been questions and concerns over this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns," said White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre in a Monday afternoon press briefing. Again, there is no indication of aliens, she emphasized for a third time, adding, "We wanted to make sure that the American people knew that." And let me just address here that I was watching that live, and all of the press were laughing as she was saying this. It was very audible chuckle in the background. So obviously there were going to be no questions pushing this topic after that, and we didn't see any further questions. And so in a further quote, "Would you tell us if there were?" one journalist in the crowd of reporters shouted back in response to Jean-Pierre chuckling and made a brief joke about the movie E.T. As recently as Sunday night, Pentagon officials had indicated that they weren't ruling anything out yet, meaning aliens were still technically on the table. But the White House's announcement seemingly squashes that pipe dream. And so you may say, wait, what's going on? Over the past 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the U.S. military has shot down or aided in Canadian operations to shoot down 3 different, as of yet unidentified, aerial objects. And so according to White House officials, all of those objects were aimlessly drifting without propulsion in the atmosphere between 20 to 40,000 feet, and thus posed a risk to commercial aircraft. So the 3 back-to-back takedowns followed the earlier down edge of the 200-foot tall craft that the U.S. officials are calling a Chinese surveillance spy balloon. However, none of the subsequent aircraft targeted in the recent days have been linked to China or any particular owner, state, corporate, or otherwise. Further, officials haven't determined any purpose, surveillance or otherwise, of any of the 3 most recent objects in the takedown. And so John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications on the National Security Council, said in the morning briefing. Dave, your thoughts? It's not aliens.
No, but you know what? One thing that does kind of concern me about this, and I'm curious to get your opinion, and maybe we'll get Random Guy's opinion on this as well. For months, if not years, excuse me, I have been asking, where's the threat narrative? You've heard me many a times. Our audience has heard me. We also pointed it out. We did a show with Grant Cameron when the Canadian Department of National Defense came out and said there was 0 threat narrative to UFOs over Canadian airspace. But the problem we have now is people are calling these Chinese drones UFOs, which they are not. They're unidentified objects, yes, but they're not what we would consider a classic UFO, or what the government wants to try and put this UAP crap into our mouths with, because they always need a different acronym. So the question is, from a public standpoint, Tim, and I'm curious your opinion, how does this change the threat narrative when there isn't a threat narrative regarding UFOs?
It's a great question, but it's obviously going to reinforce everything that they've been saying, how potentially UFOs do pose a threat. I think it's actually reinforcing that, because we just saw them take them down. And if they're between 20 and 40,000 feet and we don't know what they are, well, they just need to come down because they pose a threat to our aviation. And I think it's great that, RG actually dug up an article that's almost 3 years old. And the topic is that the Pentagon is testing mass surveillance balloons across the US. Now, this is a 3-year-old article coming from The Guardian. And that's the headline. And it's saying that the exclusive is that the high-altitude balloons promise a cheap monitoring platform that could follow multiple cars and boats for extended periods, right? And we can dive a little more into this article, perhaps when RG hops on. But I can tell you what I do definitely see is them reinforcing the threat of things that we're not sure of in the skies. We are starting to take the opinion, or at least the standpoint, obviously, that we're going to shoot it down first and figure out what it is after, because it was still called an object even after it was taken down. So that is concerning. I think that we should know what we're firing on. And I mean, I hate to say it that way, but at the same rate, it's good that we take down things that are in the way of our aircraft. However, I've yet to hear of one of these objects interfering with our aircraft, Dave. I haven't heard that yet. So I'm still not sold on these in particular being a threat. I'm aware of it, and it would be horrible to see that happen. A plane running into a bus-sized piece of equipment, that's a horrifying thought. However, we see the United States using this technology on its own. 25 unmanned solar-powered balloons were launched from rural South Dakota, drifting 250 miles and spanning portions of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Missouri, before concluding in central Illinois. And they say concluding. I mean, there's no real details here, but it was, traveling in the stratosphere at altitudes of up to 65,000 feet. Right now, that's over our own country, and it was our own test designed by the Pentagon. But it sounds as if 3 years ago, the Pentagon was testing out some balloons of its own at 65,000 feet in particular. I find that interesting.
I find it interesting too, but I also look for the idea that, Tim, and don't take offense to what I'm saying, but it really seems that, we're buying into a current narrative here regarding the threat. And I don't see that narrative. I just don't. I really don't. But hey, that's just me. We got 1 minute to go here on Spaced Out Radio before we have to say goodnight to everybody. And Tim, I'll give you the final word on this, threat or not. I mean, let's just say it. Thumbs up. We'll go rock, paper, scissors on it.
Okay.
Okay. I win its threat, or it's non-threat. You win its threat. Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Rock, paper, scissors. Oh, sorry.
What the hell?
I thought you said thumbs up, thumbs down. We're going to have to do this again.
No, we've run out of time. We're going to ask you, Tim, before you appear on us or on SOR again, that you learn the rules to rock, paper, scissors. There's no dynamite in there, man. And either way, the dynamite, I would have cut the wick off, which means I would have won. Yeah, I'll take that. Buddy, another great report. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. And, of course, to everybody like Swamp Dweller, who was coming on in, giving us another spooky story. Walter Bosley, the first 2 hours, really having a lot of fun with Walter. And don't forget, everyone, we'll be back tomorrow night as well with another high-quality show of woo. And we want to see you here as well. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat room tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, LinkedIn, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.